Chahera tumalo me Uganda. Wano bino bedo kere pachi wako. Oto wot beri yikam. Yikam kunu.
Utin wa dushu dang ne ko kunu eno kene wote wa meke wa jot dushu kom dunga jot
si luoro ni karo kene kai wor poro uduira ma ko e poro te dang ne ko do wano beru go hera
Yen kira me kwando nula cholo kwanu la nywalo ko. Yen kira me do nungi ni chente da do pe.
De chokwer kondu kwany radio mari o chohera te ko tawil to kwany ko atira chente buat lu kwana rio
Amo luoni love mercy. Ado te chako kwanyo rangane tu chiel chako ter kere.
utuni ki o penyer kila chabir mani kom yuranga ni tu chela charro tu chel atedi ge cham na chani
Amite en kwana tek. Achwale na university amite.
Amando nku ti compassion.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me back at Gaimea. It's a real pleasure for me to be here this morning. Love Mercy was selected as a May Mission Month project in 2013. And funnily enough, back then, I was also heavily pregnant while speaking on stage. But back then, we were one of the non-tax deductible projects, and Gaimea Baptist Church, through May Mission Month, raised $15,000, which actually provided 500 women, like the women you just saw in that video, with a Sense for Seeds loan. So we're extremely grateful for Gaimea's early support of the program, and it's a real honour for me to be back here this morning to speak to you about how we are expanding the project. So since then, in 2013, we've gained our tax deductibility status, which is very exciting and was quite a long and arduous process. We've also become signatories to the Australian Council for International Development Code of Conduct. And we've also had over 3,000 women participate in the Sense for Seeds project in that time. So thank you for helping to make those things happen for us. To give you a brief overview of the Sense for Seeds project, those women that you saw in the video are some of the women across northern Uganda who have experienced over 20 years of civil war. So basically, after these women returned to their homes once the rebel activity ceased in Uganda, they returned to nothing. And their once previously thriving agricultural lifestyles had been reduced to basically nothing. And so what Sense for Seeds does is it chooses these women based on their need. It acknowledges that as women, they are the caretakers of children and of their families. And it acknowledges that when a woman is empowered with the ability to care for her children, she reinvests into her family. So what practically happens is these women are given a loan of 30 kilos of seeds. The seeds are locally sourced A-grade seeds. They're either beans, rice or sesame. The women are placed into groups and they're given a leader. They also have access to agricultural workshops so that they can learn how to get the most out of their crops. And once they harvest those crops, they go on to sell their produce at the market and use their income to reinvest into their families. So they might decide to pay for school fees, or they might buy household supplies, or even more importantly, they access medical care that sometimes they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And so the way the church is involved in this project is that all of these meetings that take place on almost a weekly basis is done at the local church with the local pastor who oversees the groups, who prays for the women and who gathers these women together every week. Now, the women who are in our program don't have to be Christians, but we've heard many testimonies of women coming alongside one another and actually coming to faith because they make friends with women who are part of the church, and they see and hear the gospel, often for the first time, and come to faith. So what we've decided as an organisation is that because this program works, and we know that it works, and we know from these women's stories that it works, we would like to reach 20,000 women in northern Uganda by 2020. And so when many of you would know Cassie, our project manager, when we sat down with our Ugandan team and with Cassie to sort of plan through and go, okay, how do we get to 20,000 women? The need arose very quickly that there is a drought that northern Uganda and most of East Africa is currently experiencing. And so we decided that we could hand out as many kilos of seeds as we liked, but if the rain doesn't fall, then we have a problem. We needed to figure out a way to grow the seeds. And so in 2015, the women in some of our villages actually lost the entirety of their beans crop. And now, each season, each family is given 2 types of crops to mitigate against that risk. And sesame is quite a drought-resistant seed, so we tend to give sesame along with another seed. But this was obviously a major setback to lose the entirety of one crop. And so in meeting with these women and consulting with them, they said, well, we just need water to water these seeds. And so that was when the Watering the Seeds project came to life. So we cannot reach and grow the impact of this project, we cannot reach 20,000 women without being able to offer an irrigation program. And so what does this actually look like? The first step is obviously to drill a borehole in the village. And so we've sought out a local Ugandan partner who is currently surveying the land to drill boreholes in each village. And this has the added benefit to the rest of the community who aren't in the program, who can actually have more points of access to fresh water in their communities. Using the funds from May Mission Month, our local team will then purchase 100 solar-powered drip irrigation kits that we will distribute to women in Bar Village. And so what are these kits and how do they work? Basically, they're solar-powered. So solar-powered panels provide power to the pump that will draw water directly from the borehole. And this obviously removes the need for expensive fuel. It also removes the need for expensive batteries or engines, which require constant fuel and also are not environmentally friendly. The kits also provide a tank for storage with a valve that enables the women to turn the water source on and off as needed, that filters down into the crops via a drip irrigation tape. So 100 of these kits will be bought for distribution across Bar Village, and we aim to reach 300 women through these kits. So the cost of these kits, Gymea Baps has generously committed $41,000, and the total cost is $50,000 for this program. And so basically, that doesn't include the drilling of the bore, which will be funded externally by our partners in Uganda. And the deficit of that $9,000 is made up by our internal fundraising. But as you can see from the breakdown of the budget, the main cost is basically those 100 drip irrigation systems that will service those 300 women. I'd like to leave you with the story of one of the women who you saw in the video, and her name is Sunta. And I first met Sunta in 2010. There she is with her husband. And she's been a part of the program in Bar Village since the beginning in 2010. When I met Sunta, she was sitting on her own away from the other women, and she had what looked like a bundle of blankets in her arms. And she caught my eye and motioned for me to go and join her. So I went and sat next to her, and I realised that she actually had a baby in that bundle of blankets. And she couldn't speak English, but she motioned to me that her baby was very sick and she couldn't feed him. And she basically handed me this child and said, "Can you pray for him?" And so I thought, okay, I can do that. So we prayed for her little baby. And I knew that if I walked away and did nothing, he would likely die. So we tried to help by giving her a small amount of money and helping her get connected to the local town where she could purchase bottles and formula. And as we were leaving, I said, "Can you tell me what the baby's name is?" And she said, "Yes, his name is Emmanuel." And later on, when I returned home, I kept thinking about this boy and his name and what his name means. And ever since then, I've thought of him. And in every step that Love Mercy takes as an organisation, I think about Emmanuel and the fact that that means God is with us. We later learnt, a few years later, that Sunta has actually lost 6 of her 9 babies that she has given birth to, including Emmanuel. We learnt that he managed to survive for a few years, but on our next trip back to Uganda, she told us that he'd sadly passed away. But as you can see from this picture, she's not a woman who dwells in that sorrow. Her smile lights up the entire area. And she said to Cassie in November, and this is a direct quote from her that we've translated, "I love to farm, I love to plant my crops and learn how to properly grow them. My husband also loves the program too, because it helps our household so much. It helps me provide for my 3 children. I only ask that you continue to help us so that more women like me can join the program too." Love Mercy would love to reach 20,000 women, all with stories just as amazing and heartbreaking as Sunta's. But we've identified that this need for irrigation is the first stepping stone to reaching those 20,000 women. And so we're so grateful for the support that Gaimea has offered us in the past and that you guys will offer us through May Mission Month. Thank you.